So in the case of bishop c4, the pawn endgame is just winning for black probably. So it does seem like I have a fortress here, but there's such a thing as Zugzwang in chess. At some point, black's pieces will be placed so passively that they will have to make a move and retreat to a worse position to surrender some of the weaknesses. And we'll see how this happens. So basically, white has several threats. He's threatening a6, he's threatening f5, he's threatening h5, and he's also threatening to play bishop c4 at the time when the black king is on h7. In that case, the king wouldn't be able to come to c6. It's going to take him 2 moves. So white's idea is basically to force the king to a7 and then to play bishop c4 at the right time, take over the diagonal, and then to advance with the king in the center, to basically pass this barrier on the 4th rank that white has, that black has set up. So first, white will start with bishop f3, c8 for example. Now this pawn is attacked, so black defends, the white retreats, and the idea is that, say, if black goes to f7, then white has transferred the turn of the move to black, and now black has to decide what to do. He either has to surrender if the bishop moves, say, somewhere to here to e8, then this opens up the c4 square and the king can start to invade. If the bishop goes somewhere, say, here, then this pawn falls, and if the king moves to, say, a7, then bishop c4, and again white invades with great force. So the only chance for black is to play something like c4, and it turns out that white cannot capture the pawn yet, but this effectively opens up the d4 square for the white king, and he starts to invade. Now the only move is king c7, because if king to c6, then here white's going to win opposition, and the pawn endgame is going to be winning for him. So king c7 is the only move, but then white just slowly builds up on the position, and now he always has this target to attack, and this position is probably winning. Attacking f5, now the king starts to break through. There's always more and more targets for white to attack. It's really bad for black to surrender the h5 pawn, because the h pawn is really hard to fight against. So if he keeps that pawn, black's only hope is to try to generate counterplay based on the c pawn, but that doesn't really work too well. And white's winning here. So to go to f7 is really not too good, because then this is going to be Zugzwang, and the only other choice is to try to stay on d7, but that also doesn't work too well, because now, well, this diagonal is no longer covered, and white's going to be able to invade on that diagonal. So for example, bishop e2, attacking h5, forced to retreat, and now the king starts to invade. Black tries to prevent that, and now the only way to guard the c5 pawn is to go to d6, but then the a pawn falls, and white comes in through b7. And this is a great example of why white's position is so much better. He has a distant passed pawn here, and even though the material is even and there's a little material on the board, it turns out that it's impossible for black to hold this position. If he exchanges the A pawn for the C pawn, then the white king is going to be closer to all these pawns on the king side, which are all vulnerable to white's bishop. And white is just on time to promote the F pawn. So here, here, and the F pawn is going to. So this shows that even though I made a really horrible blunder by taking on G4 and allowing white to create a passed pawn with the H on the H file, it's really the position was really quite bad, and I already have done enough harm to my position by placing the king to such a passive square and kind of making my bishop so passive as well. And so even if I didn't play H takes G4 and try to hold on in this very passive position by setting up the fortress, because of Zugzwang, the position was probably lost anyway. And it's one of those typical positions where black has a classical bad bishop that has to guard several weaknesses, and at some point the king and the bishop just can't control all the weaknesses and the defense breaks through. So I learned a lot from analyzing this endgame and trying to break down it into pieces and understand whether white's advantage was decisive. And I think at this point this advantage is quite decisive.